Ladies and gentlemen, good day. Thank you for joining us here again in this room. Would you please welcome our next speakers? It's please a warm welcome for Aida, Anca, and Bas.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the new paradigm of NAV upgrade story in Microsoft Dynamics NAV 2015. Allow me to introduce ourselves. We are Car Rental Systems Inc. We are a distinguished NAV partner. We develop solutions based on Dynamics NAV for the car rental industry. Our customers are already running on our most recent solution based on Dynamics NAV 2015. And we have customers spread all over the world. Our biggest customer is actually located here in Belgium. They have branches in 7 different cities. And currently, we are working on an updated version on our main add-on, the vehicle management. And this updated version comes as a reply from our customers' feedback. So we are now towards the end of the development phase. We are putting in the last changes, and we really like to roll out as soon as possible an updated version to our customers, and especially directed it to the one in Belgium. So let me introduce you to my vehicle management add-on. But before that, let me introduce you to my team. I am Anca, and together with Bas and Aida, who are all part of the NAV development team at Microsoft in Copenhagen. But today we are going to represent the NAV developers from the Car Rental Systems partner. So let's have a look on the vehicle management add-on. I have now opened the retailer client in NAV 2015. And if I'm going to departments, vehicle management, I open my list. And as you can see here, I have a simple page with headers and line format, some general information about my vehicle, some service information, when is this vehicle last serviced, and also a fuel tracker. The main feedback from our customers is that they would like to track the service for a vehicle and have an overall estimate of what is the maintenance cost for a vehicle for a certain time. A second feedback was actually in terms of usability. They don't quite use the description field, so this field seems redundant. How I translate the customer feedback as requirements for me to implement is I was basically refactor out the service fields from the vehicle table and have a one-to-many relation between the vehicle entity and the service entity. And I would also need to delete the description field from the fuel consumption. So let's have a look at the data model from my development environment for the vehicle management add-on. I have here the set of objects from my mini add-on. And if I just look at the tables, I have already started implementing the vehicle service table, which is a new table in my updated version, containing the service fields, as well as the linkage to the main entity, to the master table of my add-on, the vehicle table. And the vehicle table here is something that I need to work on. So I will basically need to refactor out the service fields from this table and move them together with the business data to the vehicle service table. Let's try to delete these fields now. And save and compile my changes. And note here the new save dialog in NAV 2015 is decorated with a synchronized schema option. Let's zoom in this option. And some background information. In NAV 2013 R2, we have introduced the concept of schema synchronization, which basically means propagating the table metadata changes to the SQL table via the NAV server. This process was done back then automated in the background, triggered by any connection to the NAV server. In the current release, the synchronized schema process is done on demand, so in a more controllable fashion. And it is also done at a more granular level. You can either change your changes once you have done changes to a table, so per table level, or you can choose to synchronize all the tables from your database, as well as in the past release, so global synchronization. But since I have the option to granularly save my, synchronize my schema for a table that I'm changing, then all the dialogues, once I'm changing a table, have been decorated with this synchronize schema option. I'm referring to the save dialog, the compile dialog, delete. Also when I'm importing a fob, and this fob contains tables. So you will see this, option whenever you make modifications to tables. And deep dive within the synchronize schema, I can now tell the server how I want to synchronize my schema from C side. I have 3 options. As you can see, the first option is now with validation, and this is the default option. This basically tells the server to go ahead and verify if my table metadata changes can produce any deletion of data. If I'm doing additive changes, such as I'm adding a field or I'm renaming a field, changes which are harmless to data, then such changes will not produce, will not impact negatively the data. The validation will pass, and my changes are going to be saved in metadata and propagated to the SQL table. If I'm doing destructive changes, then, and I'm not handling them properly, then the validation will fail. My changes are not going to be saved, and I, as a user, I'm going to be prompted with a nice, explicit, detailed error message of what is my current operation that failed, and also in workaround, how can I fix my operation. The second option that I can choose is synchronize schema later. This means that my table changes are going to be saved locally in metadata, but they are not going to be verified or synchronized to the SQL table. This option is actually useful if you don't have an NAV server connected to your database. And the third option, which is also the most dangerous option, is synchronize schema with force. This option forcefully applies the table definition changes that you have defined in C side to your SQL table and doesn't care about the data. So this option forcefully applies your changes and will potentially delete your data. So use it wisely. For my example, I need to save the information from the service fields. So my option would be now with validation. Let's try to click this one and see what happens. As you can see, I am prompted with the explicit error message of what is going wrong. So my schema synchronization may result in deleted data. I am applying a destructive change to my table, and you see here what is the operation in detail. But I'm also suggested an example of code, how can I work around my issue. But note here the keyword destructive change. So let's have a look and see what else besides deleting a field is considered a destructive change. I'm going to go back to my slides. And as you can see, besides deleting tables, I can as well change the data type of a field, change the SQL data type of a field, decrease the length of a field, remove a field from a primary key, change the ID of a field. All these are considered destructive changes. And they will be blocked unless the NAV server is given a specific instruction how to handle such changes. So basically, to synchronize such a change, you need either to provide an explicit upgrade instruction to the server, which nominates the table where you are doing such a change, or do it the non-recommended way to forcefully apply the new table definition to the SQL table, regardless of data. Back to my example. So the example of code which I am provided here is actually the upgrade instruction that I need to provide to the server. I'm going to save to my clipboard the output of this error message. And let's go through in detail through this upgrade instruction. It is tied to my vehicle table, the table which I'm modifying. I need to define optionally an upgrade table ID. The upgrade table ID has the purpose to back up the data from my previous version of the table. And a table synchronization option. I will start with creating an upgrade table since I want to back up my data and roll back my changes. I'm not ready to synchronize my schema yet. And note here that I start implementing the upgrade table. This is actually doing the upgrade step 1. In order to create my upgrade table, I will start as a template from the table which I'm modifying. So again, from the vehicle table, save as. I'll give it an upgrade range that we use in our company. Call it upgrade vehicle. And I'm only interested in saving the data from the service fields. So I'm not interested into the other fields. I will keep the number field because the upgrade table needs to have the same primary key as the table which I'm changing. And I will make sure that I don't have here any functions, variables defined, since this table needs to be completely empty. Okay. I will forcefully apply my changes because it's a new table, so no data is endangered. I have created an upgrade table, so I am halfway through filling in the upgrade instruction. You may wonder, where does this upgrade instruction reside? In NAV 2015, we have introduced a new type of code unit, namely the upgrade code unit. So let me create a code unit of type upgrade. I will access the code unit properties and set the subtype to upgrade. And we'll start creating a function. Within an upgrade code unit, there is a set of triggers that you can define. The trigger which is relevant for upgrade step 1, basically the preparation for the schema synchronization, is table sync setup. I will refer back to the second set of triggers later in my presentation. So within the table sync setup trigger, you will define your upgrade instructions. So in this section of code, I will paste the output of the error message I got earlier, and just keep the line with the upgrade instruction. I will also add a variable of type code unit, which is the data upgrade management code unit. It is a helper code unit which you can find into the demo application from NAV 2015. And let's try to save and compile this code unit as is. Call it nicely upgrade vehicle code unit. Note here that I am prompted that my getTableSyncSetup function, labeled as TableSyncSetup type, has an invalid signature. I have forgotten to reference TableSyncSetup. This table actually is very important during schema synchronization. It is a virtual table, and the NAV server records all the tables IDs which it can find as modified into this table. So I will add it to my function and have a reference to it. The layout of this table is basically the table ID which is changing, the upgrade table, which has the purpose to back up the data from the table that I'm changing, and the schema synchronization option for this table. So I will replace the placeholder with the upgrade table which I have just created. And let's have a look on the modes that I can handle the data from this table. I have here a slide. So one of the upgrade modes, upgrade options that I can define when modifying the table is upgrade option check. This means that the server will try to apply my change and fail if it finds that my change has a negative impact on data. For example, if I am deleting a field and this field does not contain data, then upgrade option check will be applied, so my field update will be propagated to SQL. If my field contains data, then upgrade option check will fail, and I will get an error message that my change could not be saved. On the other hand, upgrade option force will never fail, because it will forcefully apply your table changes, regardless if you have data into the fields or not. So if you don't care about the data, again, you can use upgrade option force. For upgrade options copy and move, these are the options which back up the data from the previous version of the table that you are changing. So for these two options, you need to define upgrade tables. In case of upgrade option copy, you will back up just a portion of your data, so your upgrade table will only contain a subset of fields from your original table. and the new table will still contain the data remaining on the matching fields. In case of upgrade option move, the entire table will be backed up, and the new table that is created is going to be empty. So we have designed the upgrade option move when you completely want to redesign, repurpose your table. For my specific example, back to Seaside, I have an upgrade table ID which backs up a subset of fields from my original table. So I will use here upgrade option copy. Save and compile my changes. I now have everything in place for a successful schema synchronization while deleting these fields. Synchronize schema now is validation. Okay, no error this time. That's a good sign. I will run the upgrade vehicle table to see if the service fields have been saved here. Perfect. And I will run the vehicle table to see that the table still contains data into the remaining fields. All fine so far. So I'm basically done with schema synchronization, which is upgrade step 1. Now I need to move the data from the upgrade table to the vehicle service table, so to the destination. So I'm implementing upgrade step 2. For this portion of code, I'm getting back to my upgrade code unit. And within my upgrade code unit, I'm making use of the other triggers. So I will create a new function, call it upgrade vehicle service. And within an upgrade step 2, the server will handle the triggers marked as check precondition or upgrade. Basically, within check precondition triggers, you will put the methods which validate that the current state of your data into the database is ready for upgrade step 2. In the upgrade triggers, you will put the code which moves the data from the upgrade table to the new destination tables or reinitializes the new tables. So my function is of type upgrade, since I'm moving data from my upgrade table. And I have already prepared the code for this. So I'm basically iterating through the upgrade table records and inserting them into the vehicle service records. And in the end, good practice, I'm deleting the records from my upgrade vehicle table. I will save my changes. I need to add the variables. So I'm using the upgrade vehicle table as my source of data, the vehicle service table as destination, and also an index entry number for my vehicle service table. All fine. Let me now invoke upgrade step 2, so the data upgrade step. I will do this from Seaside, invoking the tools, data upgrade, start menu. I'm testing if my upgrade code works. Oh, super fast. I only need to run one method. So I will run now a vehicle service table. All fine. My upgrade vehicle is empty. Good. And since I'm in this view, I need to remember that I have another requirement to implement. This is the deletion of the description field, which is not used anymore from the vehicle fuel table. So I will quickly synchronize the schema with force, as you saw. I need to remember this when I'm checking in my code. And I have to update also the pages, but I will do this very quickly. Time is ticking. Compile. Okay. Now I'm going back to RTC. Let's see how my new pages looks like. Perfect. So I have here the general information of a vehicle. The service fields have been extracted as lines here, and the fuel consumption does not contain description. Okay, looks like I'm ready to check in this change list, and our update is ready. So I need to export my objects, which I have modified from my database. I have a script which does this using the new NAV development tools. I'll do this fast and quickly. Okay. So this is how my changes look like. The script is removing the date and time values and setting a new version list to the objects which I'm updating. And yeah, my work is done. So let's have a recap of the mechanics that we have exercised so far. I was doing changes from my development environment, where I was basically modifying the app. And at schema synchronization time, the NAV server detects the changes that I've made to the tables. And for each table ID which I have changed, it records it into the table sync setup virtual table. After it detects all the modification, it looks at and scans into the database if it can find any upgrade code unit. And from these upgrade code units that it can find, it looks into the functions which I have defined as table sync setup, because here is where my upgrade instructions are. And then it goes upgrade instruction by upgrade instruction and fills them into the table sync setup virtual table. At the end of the scan, it will know how to synchronize the schema changes and how to handle the data from each table which I have modified. So important thing to remember is the upgrade code unit, which is the new type of upgrade code unit in NAV 2015, because this is the placeholder where you run both upgrade step 1 and upgrade step 2. And both such upgrade steps are running in the newest version, in the version that you have modified. Upgrade step 1 is currently outsourced to the NAV server. So we call the upgrade process actually as a single step, because the schema synchronization is handled by the server, and we only need to provide an upgrade instruction to the server how we want to handle the data. And within an upgrade instruction, you have the specialized triggers that you can define. So table sync setup makes sense during upgrade step 1, schema synchronization. This is the placeholder for your upgrade instruction. Check preconditions will run the methods which check that your database is ready for data migration for running upgrade methods. And within upgrade methods, you are going to write and run your custom code to move the data from the upgrade table to the new destination table. So, hey boss, how are you doing?
I'm great.
I have checked in my code for the vehicle management add-on. I think we're ready to release the new update for our add-on.
All right, that's good news. I think our customer will be really happy with these improvements, and also with the fixes we got from Microsoft with the latest cumulative update.
Right, oh, great.
You did apply it, right?
No, actually I haven't done this. I haven't seen.
Okay, well, no problem. I heard that with the new merge tools, it's really easy to apply such an update. So let's show how we can do this. Switch to my screen. So this morning, like every morning, I checked the NAV team blog, my favorite website, to see if there was any news. And yes, there was a new update was released, and in the knowledge base article, there was a lot of improvements listed for the application. So I'd like to bring our vehicle management solution with the new features up to this update. And the new merge tooling from Microsoft uses the concept of a three-way merge, and it makes this a lot easier than before. Before I start doing this, I want to bring up this slide again. It should be a familiar slide by now. And it explains the concept of a three-way merge. I just want to go through it one more time. A three-way merge is a merge that's based on 3 inputs. There's one shared base, and then there's 2 versions that are derived from that independently. So in this example, there's a shared base, and our terminology is, we call this the original object. And it is changed in one derived version, that is the modified version. And we calculate the difference between the original and the modified version. So in this case, it turns out that there was one field added. It was added after the phone number field. And we record this information in a delta object. Then there's another modified version, and we call this another derived version, we call this the target version. And this version actually merged the first name and last name field into a name field. So now we have 2 changed versions, and we will try to apply the delta that we calculated between original and modified to the target version. And this will give us the result, which is the output. Even though the first name and last name field changed in the target version, And we added an email field at roughly the same place in the modified version. We will still be able to merge, because this is a merge not based on text, but based on a model that we calculate from these objects. So in the context of applying a cumulative update, the picture looks like this. Our vehicle management solution is based on NAV 2015 RTM. So is the cumulative update that comes from Microsoft. So these are the two derived versions. In this example, I will consider our vehicle management solution the target version, in which we want to merge the changes that we got from Microsoft with the cumulative update. There's no definitive rule on what should go in target and what should go in modified. It can be different from merge to merge, which way you would get the best results. It depends on what has changed and how many changes there are. Anyways, the resulting version would then be our vehicle management solution, but now updated to the cumulative update released by Microsoft. So to start doing this, I will open up the development shell, where I have all these commandlets available. So to do this three-way merge, we need these three inputs. So one of the inputs is the RTM source code. I have a database here that I will use to gather the RTM code. And when I use the new development command for this, that is basically wrapping the finsql.exe that we had before. And I export from the RTM database into a file, and I name it rtm.txt. And I will let it do that. This will take a little while. So I will take the opportunity to have a look at the archive that you can get from Microsoft that contains the cumulative update. And when you extract it, you get another archive that contains a full DVD with the updated version. But there's also a separate folder that contains everything that has changed in the application. So there's a change log, and it contains before and after fragments of all the changes that were made. In this case, there were somewhere in between 400 and 500 changes made. There's also this file that contains all the objects that were changed. 133 objects for this update. So this is still running, so I will just open up another one. So what I also need is the source code from the cumulative update. And I'd like to use that as separate files, because that works a little bit easier when merging. And I want to do the same for the RTM source code, so I will create two folders for this. One named RTM and one named cumulative update 1. And now I will apply the split commandlet that we've added. And I will point to the file that I've downloaded from Microsoft containing all the objects, this text file. And I will export that or split that into this CU1 folder I just created. Let's see, is this done? Okay, this one finished. So now I have a text file containing all the RTM objects. I split that one also, pretty much the same, rtm.txt into the RTM folder. Now I'll use this switch because I know it's a little bit faster for the sake of the demo. The difference between using this switch or not is that if you don't use it, we analyze all the source code, and then we will also break if there's things that are not valid syntax. In this case, we will just cut between all the objects and output them into separate files. So what do we have now? Let's inspect my working folder. So now I have a folder with the 133 objects from the cumulative update. I have a folder containing 4,000 something objects from the RTM source code. And I have a folder, this is our folder with vehicle management, and that contains the source code for our solution. And actually, Anca made a few changes, and I almost forgot to pull her changes. We're using version control, I assume we all do, right? Who's using version control? Okay, it's maybe a little bit too many to give t-shirts for, but okay, let's. So I will just pull her to see if there's any changes made. So she made a few changes. Now I have my files updated here. So now I have all the inputs now, but there's a small issue, and I want to illustrate that with this slide. So we talked a little bit about what happens when you have changes in an object and then you merge that and how these changes are then interpreted. But you can also look at changes at a higher level. So if you have a set of objects, there might be objects that are deleted or added, and those are also changes that you need to take into account. For example, here you see, okay, we have an original object, a couple of fields, and in target it has changed. But in modified, our set of modified objects, this object is not present. So now the question is, what should happen? Anybody an idea what should happen here? No? Well, actually, this will be a conflict, because for the tool, there's no way to resolve this without losing information. Either you lose the information of the fact that this object was deleted, if you interpret it as a deletion, or when we have an output without this object, then we lose the information about the change that was made in target. So given this, we know that if I have a folder that contains only the objects that were changed, like my folder with cumulative update 1, and I have a folder that contains all my objects that I have today, and that contains a lot of customizations, then I would get a conflict for each object that I've changed and that was not changed by the cumulative update. So there's two ways around this. Either you make sure that the folder that contains your objects from the cumulative update is actually a folder that contains also all the objects that were not changed. That's one way to do it. The other way is to do it the other way around and to look at your target and original folders and filter those to only contain the objects that were changed in the cumulative update. I will choose to do the latter. So in PowerShell, this is relatively easy. I can list all the objects from my cumulative 1 folder, and I can iterate over them using for each object. And then for each of them, I copy an item with the same name. So $_ refers to here to the object that we're processing here. And I copy it to, oops, now I forgot to create the target folder. So let me just do that in between. So I want to create a folder, like a version of the RTM folder that contains only the objects that were changed by the update. So, and it will serve as my target folder, so I will name it, or as my original folder, I will name it RTM_original. And I will need to have the same for my vehicle management objects. So I create 2 folders. So let's get back to this one. So now I have a set of filtered objects in my RTM_O folder. And now I can do the same, but then like the short version, using some aliases, %. It means for each copy from my vehicle management folder an object with the same name into my vehicle management target folder. So now we're really done. Now I have everything in place to start the merge. So let's issue this merge command. It takes the original path. Now this is my RTM_original folder. I have a modified folder, which was the cumulative update. I have a target folder, and this is my vehicle management, the filtered version of that. And now I again realized that I forgot to create a result folder. So let's do that quickly in between. So now it's reading from each of the 3 input folders, those 133 objects that were still in there, comparing original with modified, and then taking the difference and then applying that to my target, to my vehicle management objects. So the result of applying this cumulative update, you see like a summary here. So there were 133 application objects that we merged. They contained 457 changes. And then there were 3 changes that could not be applied automatically. So let's have a look at what the result folder looks like. So this is the result folder. And I want to talk a little bit about this, for example. So here you see an object that couldn't be merged automatically. And you get one file that contains the object as it was in target, with all the changes from modified applied, as far as they could be applied without a conflict. And you also get a conflict file, which is basically the delta between original and modified minus the changes that could be applied. So it's only the changes that could not be applied are still listed here. So I can open it up in this case to see what's in there. So this is an example of a code modification change. So, and that code modification changed a trigger which was with the name code in the target code unit 442. And the actual conflict, and this is interesting, it's not listed here, but it says that the conflict is inlined in the source. So for these type of conflicts, we can actually take the original modified and target code and add that to the target resulting object. So this is the resulting object, and now we can look for a marker like this. And what you see here is that in this section of the code where there was a conflict, we have all the three versions available. So in original, we were referring to some table field. Then in the modify, we changed that into some local variable. And actually, we, in our vehicle management solution, we added these two additional fields. So now you can with this information, you can start resolving this. You could do it here, but there's a better way, and we will get back to that later. Because there's something else I want to show you, and it was also mentioned in the session by Mark. He called it, I think, something like the ugly of code merge. And that's the version list. So let's compare my resulting objects with the ones that I had, our vehicle management objects before. I'm using this, one of my favorite tools, KDiff. It's free. So it lists, it does a comparison of all the objects. Now, so this is a way for me to see, okay, what was actually merged in. Let's take one example. So on the left, you see my code. And on the right, you see the resulting code after applying the update. Some updates were applied here. But let's take it to the interesting part. And that's the version list here. And it actually didn't change. And that's, of course, not good. You could call that ugly. We have a few options, actually, on the commandlet to handle version lists, but they're not very extensive, so let me show them. So there's a version list parameter, and you can either use it to clear the version list, so then in your resulting set of objects, all the version lists will be empty. And this might be useful if you have a process in which you only apply the version list, like at the later stage when you release, for instance. This is what we do internally at Microsoft. Then there's an option to just take the version list from modified, and then there's an option to take the version list as it was in target. And this is what happened here. So I admit that in most cases this is not good enough. So what do we want to happen in our case? I have a slide for that. So this table lists kind of all the possibilities for this and what should happen. Now I'll do some fancy PowerPoint stuff. So, but this full table applies if you have all the objects in all three folders. But since we only, we filtered all the other folders to only contain the objects that were changed from the update. So that means that we are not really concerned with this, and this one. So the three lines that are left, there's another one that we're not really concerned with, because this one says that, basically it means that we got an object from Microsoft, and it modifies an object that we added. So that is, of course, not possible. So this one is also not interesting. So there's two lines remaining here, two cases. One where we get an update from Microsoft, and it updates an object that we hadn't touched. And then we should just keep the version, take the version from the cumulative update. And the other case is where we had touched the object that was modified by the update, and then we should combine this in a new way to get the new version list. So the way we support this, and you need to do a little bit of scripting yourself because we can't really predict all the different ways you can work with version lists and you want to use them. It's very difficult. But you can use the output of the merge command for this. So I will get back to this merge command. And you're forced now to overwrite the results again, but I would not. I would assign the result to a variable like this. And now there's a lot more information that you get from that. So the variable gives you all the merges that happened. We can look a little bit more into detail because each element in this set of merge results is actually a pretty rich object. So let's inspect one of them. So I just select the first one. So now I have my merge info. It's like this, but I can inspect it further using this, get members. And what we see now is that this object actually contains information about the target object for this merge, the resulting object, the original object, and the modified object. So let's look a little further. If I query for the target object, this is information about that file and the object it contained and the version list. All the object properties are listed here too. So now I could do like this. So now I know that from the output of the merge command, I basically have access to all three version lists for all three inputs. And if I have some kind of script that can turn those three inputs into what I want in the target, then we have other commands to make that happen. So there is a small script that can do it for this case, and I built it before. So it's basically a 3-line script. It takes one of these merge info objects, and then it splits the target version list on the comma to get each of the segments. Then it replaces the first part of that with the one that we got from Microsoft. And finally, we put it back together again on a comma and return it. So if I pull this into my session, and I apply this to our merge info object, then this is, now the first part is updated. So now I can apply this to all my resulting objects, and we use the %, and you now know that this is for each. And then we have the commandlet set nav application object property. I want to set it on the resulting object. And what do I want to set it to? Well, I want to apply this function that I created. Like this. So now it's going through all the files in the result folder, applies my function that calculates the desired version list, and writes the file back out. So it should only take a couple of seconds. And then we have another commandlet to now inspect that again, called get nav application property. Give it the result folder. Let's just have a look at the version list. So you see, this is actually what the one should have been in the first place. So, okay, now import, done merging, I think. Let's import. We use the commandlet for this. It takes, no, wait. We first want to join the result in a single file. We use the join commandlet for that. It takes a folder, a file spec, and then we output to a file. We name it merge.txt. And then in the next one, we import it into, I have my original vehicle management database here, containing the object before I pulled Anca's changes. That is the database name. So now it's concatenating basically all the objects from my result folder into one file and taking that one and importing it. It shouldn't take long. So now I compile it. Also, a new commandlet, very easy to use. It will compile any object in the given database that is not compiled. And it will also tell it not to synchronize any schema changes, just to make it a little bit quicker. So anybody an idea what should happen now, or what will happen? Maybe you remember that we had a couple of conflicts, so did we forget them? Well, if you forget them, it shouldn't really be a problem, because you will be warned. Let's see if we get some red text here. Let me open up the development environment in the meantime. Right? So these were the 3 conflicts that we had, and they all failed to compile. Actually, they were all code conflicts that were inlined. So I will go to my development environment, filter on not compiled. So there's 3 objects here. So let's have a look. The compiler will bring me to the place where I need to do something. So even though we inline this and you can import it, we made it so that it doesn't compile. So you're always warned that, hey, you forgot something here. So okay, remember what happened here? We replaced this line, was replaced by Microsoft with this line, and we added these 2. So this gives me a way to resolve this. I just want to keep the line we got from Microsoft and my 2 additional lines, like this. And now I can save it. So this is a lot safer than doing it in Notepad. Let's look at the next one. Oh, this is very similar. I will resolve it the same way. The final one. Okay, this looks a little bit more complicated, but let's not panic. These couple of lines were replaced with these lines in the update, but actually we put a condition around them. So I will just take the ones that were changed to and put those in the condition. Maybe we should do some testing as well, but let's just not do it now. Okay, so clean up. Done. So yeah, I'm wrapping up now. First, let's export this in a FOB that I will give to my colleague later so that she can update our customer. It takes a database name and a FOB name, and I will put this one on our build drop share. But before I hand over, let's do a quick summary. And there's a cool way to do that with PowerShell. I'll just grab the history of what we just did, and I'll take the command line, and then I copy it here, so then we can have a look at it. So first we started out with preparing all the source code, grabbing the source from RTM. We don't see that part here because we did it in another session. So that's basically this part. So then we synced. Let's skip that. So then the next step, we filtered it to only contain the objects that we got from that were included in the update. So that part happens here. Next, we did the actual merge. This is this part. Well, we did it twice. We normally wouldn't do that. Then we played around a little bit with the merge info. And then we updated the version list based on this new version list function. And then we looked at it. And then finally, we joined the objects together and imported them, compiled them, went into C-side to resolve any conflicts. And finally, we exported a FOB. And I think Aida will take over from here.
Okay, Beth, so the FOB is ready.
I'll switch.
Yep. Let me switch. Okay, I can see the FOB in the drop. It's number 1.
Oh, we don't have.
We don't have the picture. Bear with me for a moment. Okay. I think I have the picture now, hopefully. Did you switch to one?
It's number 1.
Okay, it's every time you switch. Maybe I should try that again. Okay.
No.
I'm waiting to the fob to get dropped in my drop folder, I guess. It's taking a while. It was working. We tried it now. Duplicate. Okay. Perfect. So maybe I duplicate it. Fantastic. It took a while. That was yeah. But let me check if I have the fob. Okay. So now I have my customer database, and I'm going to import the fob. Yeah, it's right there. It takes a while to get to there, but it is here. And I import it. So this is actually my biggest customer. And yeah, of course, I need to replace all. And I have 7 companies within this database that represent 7 branches that Anca mentioned for my customer, which is running a car rental system. And right now, I get into the import fob synchronization dialog. And the reason is, as Anca demonstrated, I have a table in my fob. So I have the synchronization option that I can choose to validate. And I will choose now with validation, because I want to make sure that there is no destructive changes in my fob, or if there is any, it has been handled with upgrade code unit. It will take a while. So right now, all my objects are getting imported, and the validation will happen at the end. 73%, 82%, and yes, done. Of course, I would like to validate now, just to make sure. So sync is in progress. Uh-oh, seems there is an issue. Let me see what is the issue. Let me zoom in. Okay. It seems like there is something that there is a field or something that has been deleted. So I'm instructed to go to the PowerShell and see the details and see what is happening. Okay. That's exactly what I would do. Let me close the magnifier. And I will go to the PowerShell as instructed. I will run sync nav tenant. And my server instance is 80. And in mode, check only, just see what is going on. Okay, it seems that everything is fine. No problem. Let me try again. Okay. Yeah, I can see that. I think, Anca, when you wanted to remove the description field, you forget to actually think on the fly. And of course, it doesn't matter because that was a field that we wanted to get rid of. And the only thing is right now, NAV server doesn't know how to handle that field. And I need to add a line to my table sync setup in order to instruct server how to handle that change. Okay, the code is already ready for me. It's just a one-liner. Fine. Okay, let me close this and go to my upgrade code unit. So you can see here that I have two upgrade code units. One of them is another one on the cost management that another department has prepared as part of the updates, and another one is vehicle upgrade code unit that Anca just prepared. Okay, well, I go here, design, and I will just paste this line. And since I'm not going to copy or move any data because I just want to remove the field, then I don't need any upgrade table. So I'm going to remove that, and just table ID would be 0, fine. And then the mode is force, because I want to force the deletion. And hope that will take care of it. Okay. Yes, compiled. Very well. And for many of you that I know you are like hardcore seaside lovers, we have added a synchronization option from the tools menu in NAV 2015. So you don't need to switch to PowerShell if you want to run a synchronization check. I go sync schemas for all the tables, and here I will run with validation. Just make sure that everything was fine. Yes, I'm going to run the validation, see if I'm ready for my data upgrade. Okay, it is syncing. 79%, 250 out of 500, 100%, fantastic. So it seems like everything is going fine. We just have a small little mistake from Anca that I catch it on my FIB import. That was very good. And now I'm going to start to run my data upgrade. So let's get started. You know that in NAV 2015, we have added a menu item to the tools menu that calls the data upgrade. So I go to the data upgrade. I say start, a confirmation. Do I really like to start the upgrade process? Yes, of course. That is the whole reason I am here. And you can see that I have a small dialog with different options on how to run the upgrade. And what is happening really when I call this function is the NAV server goes and looks into the database, finds all the code units marked as upgrade code units as Anca demonstrated, and then within those finds all check precondition functions and upgrade functions and execute them. Okay, that's fine, but the magic happens here actually because I have different execution mode. I can run my upgrades in different ways in NAV 2015. One of that ways is the good old way, the serial way that we all know and familiar with. Another way is parallel. But I just like to start with serial. Okay, I kick this in. And my data upgrade dialog box shows the state. It is in progress. Yes. And I think this is going to take a while. So let's see exactly what is happening right now here. I have 7 companies. So the NAV server goes, finds all upgrade code units in each company one by one. Then within that finds the functions that are marked as check precondition. First run them. If the run was successful, then goes and runs the rest of functions that are marked as upgrade and iterates that through all the companies. So here, actually, now I am running 42 upgrade methods, because in one of my upgrade code units, the cost management, I had 6. And in vehicle management, I had one. I had 1, and in my cost management, I had 5. So I had overall 6 functions, upgrade functions. And right now, I have 7 companies, so they're going to iterate through 42 times, 76%. And actually, let me show you what happens now here, how my system is kind of utilizing the resources. You can see here that it's between 60, 65%, and now my upgrade completed. So the CPU usage was around 32%. Memory was average. I was not utilizing all my resources in my machine. Okay, let's get back. My upgrade process is completed. But I think now you wonder how you can see the details of the upgrade process and what happens really behind the scene. To get a detailed overview, I need to use the PowerShell. So let me switch to my favorite integrated scripting environment. Great. And I'm going to, you can see here that I have uploaded NAV admin tools that comes with NAV 2015. And through that, you can get access to all PowerShell commandlets that supports data upgrade. So I'm going to call get nav data upgrade. And what really happens when upgrade is executed, the state of upgrade is saved in memory in the server instance that's running the upgrade. So I can query that server instance. Here is Dynamics Nav 80 in my example, and get a detailed state of how my upgrade has been executed. And actually, I can have different views of that. I can get a grid view, or I can run it in the table. I love the grid view, so let's move with that. Isn't that beautiful? So look at here. I have, I think the first thing you must notice that each upgrade function is running through the session. And all my upgrade function has been running through different companies, representing different cities that I have branches there very well. But there is one thing obvious here, that all these upgrade functions are running on one session. That means if you look at the start time here, they start at a specific time, and when it is completed, then the next one starts. So it is a one-to-one relationship. I go through, iterate through each company one by one and run this upgrade, and I was lucky today. I had no errors, and everything is completed in a serial fashion, and you can see that it takes a bit of time. But that's not all it. Okay. Actually, right now, I want to show you something else. Of new capability. For that, I need to restore, and first I need to actually close my development environment. That would be great if I do that. Okay. So I need to restore my database to the state before execution of upgrade toolkit in order to be able to demonstrate that. So bear with me for a moment. And now we are going to explore the world of parallel execution and see what that really means. Yeah, seems like everything is ready. So I can open my development environment again. Perfect. And this time, I'm going to Tools menu, my new favorite option, Data Upgrade, Start, and this time, yes, of course, I'm going to keep it as default. So in NAV 2015, we run data upgrade by default in parallel. What does that really mean? Let's see. Okay. I just want you to notice how fast this is running, and look at the use of my resources. It's 100%. I am utilizing all my resources in my machine to run the upgrade right now. Okay, 50%, 59%. Normally it takes a little while to kick in, but then it kicks in. 78%, 83%, and 100%. I just run 42 upgrade functions in 7 companies in parallel. Okay? But I love to see the detailed state now and see really what happened behind the scenes. I get back to my favorite scripting environment, and again, I would like to see the grid view, get NAV data upgrade. Yes. Okay, there are a few things to pay attention here. Look at the session IDs. In serial execution, they were the same. They are different here. That means each upgrade function owns its own system session. And if you look at a start time, all of them started at the same time. So upgrade functions are running in parallel with each other and in parallel across the company all at the same time. And I really think this is amazing because imagine, it's like you have 42 employees sitting doing upgrade for you across 7 companies simultaneously. And you are utilizing all the resources on your machine. And as you go larger scale and you have long upgrade function, you can imagine what does that really means. So this is one of the capabilities we have introduced in NAV 2015, the ability to run upgrade across companies in parallel. But that was not all it. So I'm going to close this because I think one of the questions that might come right now in your mind, close my development environment again because I need to restore my database again. Yes, completed. I think the question comes in mind now, okay, this was straightforward, but what happens if there was any error and any failure? Doesn't the parallel execution mess that up? Let's see. So in order to do that, I need to have like some kind of wrong data in order to make my upgrade fail. So I'm going to kind of make a syntactic failure now, here. Okay, something happened. Okay, maybe I should just zoom out. Zoom in a bit more. Yeah. Perfect. Okay. Zoom in one more time, and then we are fine. So I'm going to open the Windows client. In cost management upgrade, one of the upgrade toolkits, the upgrade functions that I have is updating a sales invoice. And it is dealing with a specific customer. So all I want to do here is I go to my customer list and find that customer 20,000, and block this customer. So when my sales invoice calls to this and wants to update, then it cannot because the customer is blocked, okay? I just set it to all, okay? And I close my Windows client. And now I'm going to get back to the development environment. This time, tools, data upgrade, start. Yes, of course. In parallel, but you can see I have some other options. Continue on error. Let me just check that and see what does that really mean, okay? So, you can see that I have error. Of course, I produce an error now, and I have an error. But does my upgrade is continue? I actually, because I choose the continue on error, you will see that my data upgrade process will resume and continue even though there is an error. And you have 2 options in this case. One option is just go by if default, stop at failure, or choose continue on error, then the functions that can execute successfully, they will execute successfully, and the ones that fail, they just fail. Okay, you can see I'm on 97%, and the state is suspended because I had an error. So let me see. I can zoom in, then you can see a bit more clearly. So an error happened during the data upgrade, and in order I get a list of error, I need to go to the PowerShell. That is exactly what I will do. And get back to my very favorite and most used commandlet. Okay, look at this. So all my upgrade functions were completed, and the only one was failed was the one in company Bruges. Bas, correct me if I'm pronouncing it right.
You mean Brugge?
Okay, that one, that company. So that was the only one that failed, and you can see the error because the customer was blocked, and the rest were completed. So now, what should I do? Okay, let me see. I'm going to fix this error. So I go back to Windows Client, to my customer list, unblock my customer. Get back to development environment, close this, tools, data upgrade, and here I have another option. I have resume. So I can actually resume only the upgrade function that failed. I'm going to choose that. And you see here, I have even more options. Either I can choose to resume all the upgrade functions that were failed or right now is pending, or I can even customize. I can resume a specific upgrade code unit in a specific function and within a specific company. This can be very much handy that if you have a long list of errors and there are some that are easy, you just want to fix, and then move on with the rest. Okay? In my case, I choose resume all. Yes, upgrade is in progress. Perfect. Completed quickly. It was just one function. Now I get back again to my very favorite commandlets. And look here, 100% done, all completed. And actually, if I want to sort by the start time here, if I go up, you can see that only the upgrade sales invoice started in a later time when I resumed, and the rest were already completed. They remained completed. So this is actually focusing on the two capabilities that we have on NAV 2015. You don't need to restart your upgrade after running hours and hours of lengthy upgrade process and restart everything. The ones that are completed, and then you can just restart the ones that are failing and you fixed. Okay? So that was it, but actually, one more point to mention, and maybe I can zoom in a little bit more, then this is more obvious. One more time. Great. So NAV 2015, as I mentioned before, comes with complete support of PowerShell commandlets for data upgrade functions. So you can start your data upgrade in different execution modes, parallel or serial. You can also use the flag continue on error, the ones that I just used. You can also get the progress just in the PowerShell environment, you get a progress bar of your data upgrade every time you call get nav data upgrade, or you can have more detailed state that we use it frequently, have it in a format table or in a grid view that you just saw. You can also resume the data upgrade and stop the data upgrade. Okay, I think I'm almost done, and I would like to recap what I just demoed. So we had 2 execution modes, serial, and we actually decided to preserve the old style upgrade execution, but also we introduced a new parallel way that significantly optimized the performance of upgrade, as you see. And another thing to notice is data upgrade is an asynchronous process. So you can start it also for multiple tenants in parallel. So imagine having multiple tenants, multiple companies, and running the data upgrade all at one time in parallel. But there is another thing that I need to mention. So if you want to utilize running the data upgrade functions in parallel in their own session, you need to design the functions in a way that they are independent, they are not logging each other, and they are not expecting any particular execution order. But of course, I understand. It might be exceptions. For example, very, very popular kind of example can be the sales header, and you want to upgrade your sales header before your sales line. So what you do in such cases, you can just write an upgrade sales header function, but just mark it as normal. It shouldn't be marked as upgrade. Also, upgrade sales line, mark it as normal, and then you call that within an upgrade function, exactly as my example, in the order you want. So it will execute in order because nav server only will look for the code units that marked as upgrade and run them. And we also explored the resume option, the resume capability. So when an error happens, the functions that are completed, they are remaining completed. The functions that are failed and the ones that were in progress, they roll back, and then they become pending, and you have the opportunity to fix those functions and then rerun your data upgrade without running the functions that were completed. You can also choose to restart a particular function, as I show you, from a particular code unit for a particular company. And of course, we had a continue on error option that if the error happens, then remaining functions are executed if they can successfully until the process is complete, exactly as demonstrated here, and then you can only run the failing upgrade functions. That was exactly what I just showed you as a demo. Okay, so we are almost at the end of upgrade for our car rental company. I think everything went quite smoothly and rather fast. And let's see what NAV 2015 data upgrades brings to the table. So if I want to overlap, first of all, it seriously simplifies the upgrade environments because all the steps are performed by the latest version of the product. You don't need to have multiple instances of NST and all that stuff that we all know and we don't like that much. So the upgrade performance has increased significantly. You can run in parallel across the company utilizing all your resources in the machine. And we have kind of delegated the step 1 upgrade, data upgrade, to be run by server. As a result, the amount of code that need to be written are reduced significantly. And of course, both in the data upgrade and code upgrade, the big improvement is it has minimized the number of manual action that you need to perform So it would be much, much less error prone. We just see in the keynote what happens if you have long list of manual things that you need to do. There would be always an error. And of course, we have a better troubleshooting capabilities. For example, when you want to collect and address all the errors, and then you can rerun just that errors. That just make it much, much nicer for troubleshooting. By the way, now that I mentioned that, I forget something. One thing that you can use the serial execution for is for debugging. You can easily run the upgrade in serial, activate your debugger, and run it in serial. That wouldn't be possible in parallel, now that I was talking about troubleshooting. And of course, it is not like we completely reinvent the wheel. The design concept is very familiar for you. We have the upgrade tables or buffer tables. We have the upgrade functions. And of course, we have the end-to-end PowerShell strip. We can just do everything that me and Anca did here, end-to-end automated. So it is fully automatable. And also for code upgrade, it's fully scriptable. We have a lot of scripts, and you can do a good amount of automation in that as well. But of course, the last and not least, we are providing the direct upgrade path for your customers from 3 versions, from 2009, 2013, and 2013 R2. You can find the 2013 and 2013 R2 merge upgrade toolkit in our 2015 DVD. And just last week, we shipped with cumulative update 1, the merge upgrade toolkit for 2009, because we know many of our customers running on 2009, and this will really facilitate for them to do the data upgrades faster. And also for you, it makes your job much easier. It took us a while to actually make that. Okay, thank you very much for your attention today. I think we did a decent job, and probably of development lead in our car rental increase solution is happy. I hope so. I hope the customer is happy and they receive their new add-in. So with that, please let me know if there is any questions. Yes, please.
Just going to bring a microphone over here.
Should be a mic. Yeah.
I would like to ask if there are some built-in functions that programmers can use to recognize if data upgrade was already done, or it's on side of programmer to mark somehow that this script was already executed.
Uncle, you want
I
to
can
take
answer to that. Yeah. So for the schema synchronization, for example, we have the tenant states, which tells you if you have some schema synchronization pending. If you save your changes with option later, this means your schema sync is pending, so your get nav tenant commandlet will show you that your tenant is not is in schema pending. If you don't have any schema changes pending, then your tenant will be operational. If you have had an error in your schema synchronization, then your tenant will be in operation with sync failure. So for the upgrade step 1, you can see what is the status by calling get nav tenant. And for upgrade step 2, namely the data upgrade, Aida just demonstrated the get data upgrade commandlet, which also provides a detailed state, only the errors, and yeah, you can call it. For example, if you haven't called the data upgrade before, then get data upgrade won't show anything, it will be empty.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
Hello. I have a question about the licensing. If you work in parallel, how many licenses are consumed, or it's only one you need?
By running in parallel, the sessions that you have seen, those are background sessions. So they are system sessions, so they are not actually calculated. They are server system sessions. They are not part of the limit for the customer license.
And we have verified we provide the full capability for customer to be able just to run the upgrade code. So with customer license, you can run the upgrade code, no problem. In parallel or serial, doesn't matter.
After upgrade, should we delete upgrade code units?
Yes, that is of course, that is a recommended practice. And I think, Gunnar, it was you, we were talking yesterday, you have just posted something in your blog, some interesting new ways of doing that automatically. But at the moment, we don't do that automatically.
Regarding the merge tools, how are inline comments on the code handled? Are they, do they give conflicts, or are they ignored, or? Like you have an if setting, and in the end of the if line you have a comment?
Comments, the trigger code is treated as text. So, I mean, they're not ignored, they're part of the text, and you could get conflicts on them, yes.
Hello. According to the performance, if I run upgrade without show progress, is it going to be faster? And if it run it from the PowerShell, is it going to be faster?
The data upgrade, you mean?
Yeah, the data upgrade.
There would be no difference.
No difference?
No, it would be as fast in both ways, because we are running through the same, we are calling the same code.
Okay, but because of progress bar, if we don't have it, let's say in the reports are faster. So is it same here or not?
I'm not 100%, I don't want to verify that 100%, but to my knowledge, there won't be any significant difference.
Okay, another question, please. Is it every time I finish with some function, is it do it commit or not?
Would you please repeat the question?
Every time when a function is finished, is it do it a commit to the database? Asking because if we have a very large database with very large tables, is it every time it finish with some tables, do it a commit?
Okay, that depends on
because of performance of the SQL server.
Okay, but that's the functions. Every time you commit on the fly, so every time you do that, you will commit it to the database. Okay. Yes.
Okay,
so this is exactly like actually before. When you were putting commit in upgrade test toolkit step 1, then it was committed to the database. So we kind of simulate the same. Mm-hmm.
Some more questions here?
Do we have to add permissions to the upgrade code unit, for example, changing entries?
I can answer this. You don't have to yes, so the answer is yes. You need to add the permissions within your upgrade code unit if you have there an upgrade method which modifies the tables that you have specified. And while testing that we are able to run upgrade using the customer license, we have actually added the permissions for those specific tables that are treated differently within the customer license.
I have a question for Bas. If you do the merge, then it seems that you recognize all the fields and also the properties. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. So the conflict I showed was, a type of conflict for the code in triggers. But there's also conflicts when you change a property or insert a property, and they are treated differently. So there will be a different type of change. So now you saw a code modification, but then you could have like a property insertion or a property modification. So they are treated separate.
One last question. Do you have the properties of this version, also older versions in the mechanism, or only the latest properties?
So I think we have probably most of the properties back to 2009. except for the object types that were retired, like forms. So that should be the properties that you have in code that is accepted by 2009. The tool should be able to accept that as well.
There is a question.
Hi, question about the automated merge process. How good is it when it regards to RDLC changes? Will it do the same thing as it does for the code and for the table fields? Will it do anything for the RDLC, or is that still a manual process?
For NAV 2015 RTM, it was a manual process, but of course, if Torben here from reporting team that can cover that in more detail, but for cumulative update, we have also added that to upgrade process, so it has been automated. But I'm not aware of the full details. You can catch it up with Torben, but we have that in cumulative update that was released last week.
Thank you. Another question. There are a couple of comments in other sessions over the last 2 days about whether Microsoft is likely to allow the partners to actually have access to all of the fields with their licenses, because it obviously makes a mess of the automated process if you can't create the fields within the protected range. Yes. below 50,000. Is that a likely thing to happen? Can you comment on that?
I can't answer that question now, but we are very much aware of the issue. Mark raised that concern also last night with me, had working dinner and some other partners as well. So we discussed about that, and we take that feedback.
Thank you very much.
Hello.
Hello.
After step 2, when you do the data upgrade, is temporary tables deleted?
Excuse me, the upgrade table that I have used is just a normal table.
Okay, so you have to delete it manually after?
Yeah,
okay.
Yes.
And what happens if you do not delete the code unit of the upgrade and you import like one report afterwards?
Okay, so we actually recommend to delete your upgrade code unit because the actual dangerous code there is the table sync setup code. So the next time, for your specific question, if I leave my upgrade code unit there and I'm importing a report, this doesn't actually matter. If I'm making changes to tables which are not in my table sync setup function, this doesn't matter either. Exactly. But if I'm changing the second time the table which is in my table sync setup function, then my change will succeed, or depends on the case. But the upgrade instruction still is valid for the table. But the upgrade instruction is not for my current change. So the next time that I will modify the same table that is in with my upgrade instruction, then the server will use what it can find. So that's why it's important to delete the upgrade code.
Yeah, that is a recommendation to completely clean up after the upgrade process.
Once you have completed the schema sync or the data upgrade.
And everything, yes.
When is the check preconditions executed? It's in the step 2?
It is on the step 2, and of course it is executed first. So what happens, server goes find the upgrade code unit, then finds the functions that are marked as check precondition, execute them first, exactly like it was before, and then if that was completed successfully, then goes within that code unit and find the upgrade functions.
And you wrote that it is a tool from 2009 NAV. Is it from Classic client also? Or it's only from RTC client?
Yeah, it's 6.0 SP1 and 6.0 R2, but with the SQL database.
No, but if you are using Classic client with forms and data pods? will it upgrade?
So, sorry, I think I don't understand the question.
No, neither do I.
So you have the upgrade tool for NAV 2009 R2. And if the customer is using forms, will it upgrade?
Yes.
So, yeah, so we have the code merge. It will not upgrade the forms because we cannot bring the forms over to a later version. And for a data upgrade, I think it doesn't matter.
No, it really doesn't matter.
Okay, thank you.
Because it looks into the tables.
I have a question, how you're going to enhance this toolkit, because we as an add-on creator, we have the problem. You send the customer objects, but they don't import it regularly. So we often have the case, we have a version which might be 2 years old, and we have several changes made, and maybe the customer has a version from 2012 and now gets objects from 2014. And are you planning to implement a way how I can recognize which version of the object was imported and which steps I have to execute in the upgrade? So something like a conditional upgrade steps regarding on the imported version and the target version. Hope you understand what I mean. Okay, I'll try it again.
Let me recap if I understood your question correctly. So you have different version of the add-on in different years, and you want to upgrade to the latest version. Was that your question? And how I'm keeping track of that version?
No.
Okay.
We have the problem. Well, when you create an add-on and you have regular releases, you add one field, you delete something else, you move fields from one field to the other, and something like that. And if I have upgrade from version A to version B, a small step, I know, okay, I have to copy this table, and I have to transfer the data from table A to table B. But the question is, if I'm going from version A to version F, for example, is there any way how I can make conditional changes? Do I know in the upgrade step how which version was imported of the table?
You can take it.
No, the answer is within the same upgrade code unit, you cannot handle two versions, like from where you're coming from. The schema synchronization and the whole process will be reactive, so that you will need know what to build for depending on the version that you're coming from. So you will see the errors. But within the same upgrade code unit, you cannot use the same one and apply it if you want to upgrade from version A or if you want to upgrade from version B to the current, fortunately.
May I answer to the question? If you build a difference using Git between two versions, the upgrades necessary for this are inside the difference. So you will always use the right upgrades. Know what I mean?
I think what you would like to have, support for different versions within the same upgrade code unit. So, yeah, the upgrade code unit is not version aware at the moment.
But you could add the code that branches on like a version list yourself.
Yes, you can do that.
Of course.
But you don't have a decorated function right now inside that will support that.
Okay, my question, can you use parallelism for recompiling the whole solution?
Yes, I'm not sure. I mean, I've put this on somewhere. Maybe I didn't put it on the blog. Maybe it's a good idea to put it on there. I believe it's even one of the examples on the DVD. I will check this and then I will, put it on the blog if it's not there. But so you can compile. For instance, one way to do it is to create an array that contains the different object types and then iterate over the object types. So then, if there's like 7 object types, you would have 7 threads compiling your application code. And depending on how many cores you have, it can really be like 2 times, 3 times, 4 times faster. The only thing you need to do is that because there might be some race conditions on the object table that needs to be updated by all the threads, that you need to do one sweep to compile everything that didn't compile, but usually that's only 1 or 2 objects. So
Okay.
yes, that is possible.
Thank you.
I think that's it.
Okay. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.